Welcome to the Gospel According to, the first and only podcast exploring the intersection of pop culture and the Christian faith. I'm your host, Dan Ulrich, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, the one that you can find on all social media platforms that exist and have ever existed as FlatAbs05. That is Dave Hallahan.
We're bringing that one back. That was the old embarrassing AOL Instant Messenger name that you still use to this day. I put up my away messages every day of emo song lyrics and all that. So I'm the only one. I'm the only one still using Instant Messenger. But you can't outrun those names. And I think with social media, we put embarrassing things up there. I guess you can curate it and go and delete, but people remember. The internet never
Screenshots
forgets.
Makes things exist forever.
We're not alone today. We are joined by another guest that you may know as the Gospel Coalition Award of Distinction author, who's written 2 books, Analog Church and Analog Christian. Also speaker at TGC 23 in Indianapolis this fall, and pastor at Westgate Church in Silicon Valley. It's Jay Kim. Jay, welcome to the Gospel According to.
Yeah, that was quite the introduction, you guys. That's it makes me sound way cooler than I actually am. Thanks for having me.
That's our job. We're your hype men today.
I like it. I've never had one, so this is thrilling.
Jay, were you an Instant Messenger user back in the day?
Yes. I don't remember my screen name, but I'm certain it had lots of lowercase and uppercase X's.
Yes.
And some numbers.
Yeah.
And those were the good old days. My wife and I, this will age me a little bit. When we started dating, it was AOL Instant Messenger days. And I remember I had, how you could set like very specific sounds when specific people would enter.
Right.
So I still have that memory of waiting for that sound. I forget what sound it was. But yeah, those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah, speaking of wives and Instant Messenger, I definitely curated my away messages based on the music that I was pretty sure the girl I was interested in liked. Yeah.
That was the way. That was the way to do it. That's right.
Yeah, same. When my wife and I started, it was before AIM. It was straight AOL. And she was a pastor's daughter, so she had a time limit on her AOL, how long she was allowed on. And so we'd be like mid-conversation and it would just be like, boop, she'd be gone.
That's funny.
Right.
Just erased from existence. So Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your background, who you are. You're a pastor now. How did you end up in the ministry? What kind of led you in that direction?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm Jay, married to my best friend, Jenny. We've got 2 little kids, 7 and 4 years old. I've been a pastor, a local church pastor for about going on 20 years now. So started out as a youth pastor in my early 20s and spent, almost a decade of my ministry life serving middle school, high school students and their families and college students as well. And then from there, I helped plant a church here in Silicon Valley, and then spent some time as a teaching pastor, and now serving as the lead pastor at a church here. How did I get into it, man? I went to undergrad thinking I was going to study business, not because I was passionate about business. I just didn't know what to do with my life, and I thought, well, maybe I get a business degree, and I guess business means money. I can make a living or something.
Nice.
But yeah, in my early 20s, had a pretty profound encounter. I grew up in the church and thought I was a Christian, but early on in college, freshman year of college, went through what is now sadly a very common sort of deconstruction of faith season of my life, and considered myself probably agnostic is the closest thing to describing how I felt at that time. So was an agnostic, I think, for a few years, and then slowly but surely through a group of guys who just sort of never gave up on me, continued pouring into me and investing in me, encountered the risen Christ really for the first time in a genuine way in my early 20s. And shortly after that, started volunteering in youth group as a seventh grade small group leader. And those little guys changed my life. And that propelled me to, man, this is what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. So got into youth ministry, and then 2 decades later, here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Dan is a fellow business major turned
Yep.
pastor.
Yeah.
And then, and
Turned
I,
youth pastor. We're
right,
all
right.
reformed youth pastors.
Yeah. Well, it's a great, I mean, God bless the guys and gals who can stick it out in youth ministry for a long time. I know,
Yeah.
like, I went to what is now Cairn University, Matt Mikulak, who's still the head of the
Oh,
youth
yeah.
department and still in youth ministry. And
Yeah.
even like Walt Mueller, who's like still in the game. Like, God bless
Mm.
those guys. But yeah, there was
Yeah.
a time limit for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm now a lead pastor of a little church, which means I'm still the youth pastor and the worship leader and
Yeah.
small group leader and
Yeah.
associate children's pastor. And
Yep. Yeah, and I was going to go to school for radio broadcasting.
Oh, wow.
My goal was to have my own sports talk radio show, but
Oh, cool.
I could see into the future, and I was like, podcasting will be a thing, and I can just do that. So let's go to ministry. But so Jay, you've written 2 books now, Analog Church, which I think came out in 2020, right? And then
Yeah, that's right.
and Analog Christian. So what led you in that direction to think about our spiritual formation and technology? Analog Church, for maybe for better or worse, but it came out in 2020 with the pandemic. But that's not, you were thinking about it obviously before then. So what kind of led you thinking in that direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple of things. One, I think my own personal sort of reckoning with my own digital addictions and this sort of incessant need I felt to constantly reach for my back pocket to grab my phone in any moment of idleness or boredom. I just started to ask myself questions like, what is that? Who am I becoming? How did this happen? Sort of thing. And then, to your point, how is this forming me? I started asking those questions. So that led me down a path of, I just started reading a lot of material, not Christian material, just different people who have written extensively and thoughtfully about technology. So going all the way back to people like Marshall McLuhan and Neil Postman, and then more recently people like Sherry Turkle or Cal Newport, Adam Alter, Nicholas Carr, people like that. I just started reading a lot of secular content about technology and the way it's shaping us and forming us, which then, as a follower of Jesus, I started sort of spending a lot of time thinking about the intersection between what I was reading there and the life of discipleship, the life of formation into Christ likeness. So that led me down the path of asking those questions, which then led to lots of conversations with friends and church leaders, and that's what really led to some of the ideas that became these last 2 books, which explore the intersection between, the first book is really about the intersection between the church and the digital age, and then the follow-up book, which just came out in July of 2022, is really about the intersection between discipleship and the digital age. So the other thing too, I've grown up here in the Silicon Valley my whole life. I've been here, 40 years or something. I wasn't born here, but I moved here before I can remember, when I was really young. So I've been surrounded by technology. This really is the epicenter, still is the epicenter of digital technology. Apple is just like a 10-minute drive from my office, and Google is 15, 20 minutes, and Meta or Facebook is another, 10 minutes from there. So yeah, I'm just surrounded by it, which has given me sort of a visceral fascination, because I interact with people who are making this stuff that is so pervasive and addictive, in our lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all the confluence of all of those factors sort of led to me thinking about and then eventually writing about some of these things.
Yeah, so you're right in the belly of the beast, as it were, in
Yeah.
in Silicon Valley. When we talk about technology, I think there's plenty of different ways that people, and Christians specifically, kind of default to. Either one, like, let's jump right in, newer is better, we can use it for the kingdom, or an air of skepticism of, this is probably bad and we need to stay away from it. And then that's a spectrum, so people exist all over that spectrum. But where, I guess, how are you viewing technology now? What kind of angle are you taking at in these books? Because Jesus says he came to give us life and life abundantly, right? And what is more abundant than technology and the internet?
Hmm.
Isn't this part of it? We have the world at our fingertips. This is great stuff, Jay. So don't
Yeah.
talk bad about my technology.
Yeah, first of all, I think the first thing to say is that I'm not anti-technology. Sometimes I'm accused of being anti-technology, but that's not true. It's inaccurate. I'm blatant about that in both of the books. I say I am not anti-technology. I have a ton of gratitude for the benefits, the some of the conveniences and comforts it's given us. We're the three of us are having this conversation hundreds and hundreds of miles apart from each other in different time zones, because digital technology affords us this luxury. So I'm not ungrateful. But at the same time, especially with digital technologies and the internet, and especially with things like social media and news media on digital platforms, um, really, the only point I'm really trying to make is that they are not neutral. They're not neutral technologies. So you think about other technologies, think about like a hammer. Um, an argument could be made a hammer is a neutral technology, meaning the hammer doesn't have the same sort of addictive allure that social media, for example, does. So I go to use the technology of a hammer only when I have need, you know, and at the same time, the technology itself, the hammer, can be used for good or for bad, right? I could use a hammer to build a house for somebody in need, and that's a beautiful use of the hammer. Or I could use a hammer to bash someone's car window in and steal their things. It's a terrible use for a hammer. So in some ways, it's cleaner with neutral technologies. It's very cleanly about me and my use or misuse of said technology. When it comes to digital technology, that still holds true. Human beings still have, if we would be intentional, we have power over the technology. However, digital technologies, unlike a hammer or most other technologies in human history, it is non-neutral. The technology inherently has a sort of bias, because the business model of digital technologies and digital companies and big tech, the business model is designed to fuel and feed off of our addiction. So the longer we scroll, the more we click, the more we swipe, the more we like, the more we share, the better it is for the bottom line. And that's not a blanket critique of technology companies. I'm simply saying that is the way digital technologies are inherently designed. That is the business model. So for human beings, especially for Christians who want to be intentional about their discipleship to Jesus and their formational journey, we have to be aware that these technologies are non-neutral, and they are vying for our attention and our affection and ultimately our allegiance. And what they want from us is our addiction, because that feeds the bottom line, right? The longer we scroll, the more we swipe, the more we like, the more we click, the better it is for the bottom line of the company. So there is a way in which, if we can live with that sort of awareness and live within the sort of liberation of limits, the freedom that comes from boundaries that we create, There's a way in which we can leverage these technologies for God's glory and for the good of others. But I think for so many of us, instead of doing that, we've just allowed these technologies to hold sway over us and to lure us in to their sort of addictive rhythms. And then before we know it, we find ourselves addicted, and pledging our allegiance to these little black boxes in our back pockets. And it's informing us, but it's not just informing us, it's forming us. It's creating in us a certain type of condition. It's making us into a certain type of person that actually isn't the sort of person we long to be. It doesn't lead to what you said, Dave, life and life to the full that Jesus offers. So really what I'm trying to do in my books and in some of my work is to just help people live with intentionality, to leverage these technologies for good rather than allowing the technologies to leverage us for profit. And if we can do that, then yeah, again, I'm not arguing that people should be Luddites and throw away electronics and live on a farm and grow raise cattle or something. If that's what you're called to do, if you're Amish or something, sounds like a beautiful life. But most of us will not do that. And that's not really what I'm arguing for.
Right.
I just think we need intentionality as we engage digital technologies so that they're not forming us into the people that we don't want to become.
Yeah.
What would you think would be that first step in kind of self-evaluation of where somebody is? Because I know for me, I run a Christian meme page. I'm a
Right.
Christian meme micro celebrity, and I'm 37 years old. I'm very self-assured in who I am as a father, as a pastor. But I find myself, if a post or something goes quote unquote viral for me, a couple million views, of checking and wanting to check back. And I can't help but think of these teenagers who are posting something, getting immediate feedback uh, of whether or not people like this, or especially with some of the algorithms now on TikTok of things being able to go viral, even if you have 100 followers or something like that. And then how that just wants to shape, like you're talking about, their identity of, especially, I have 4 daughters, Dave has 3 daughters, and to think about these young girls that is like, okay, this post of me smiling got 100 likes, this post of me in a more revealing outfit got 3,000 likes, and that adrenaline dopamine hit that it gets from something going. So as a Christian or as a young person, what would you think the first step in that self realizing or evaluating, am I addicted, or how much hold does this have on me?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's no way to really assess accurately the depth of one's addiction until you experience withdrawal symptoms and experience how strong those withdrawal symptoms are. So, what I suggest to most people who ask a question like that is to say, okay, create a plan for yourself and create a system of accountability around you, friends that you trust who care about you and love you and care deeply about your formation, and ask them to hold you accountable for a week or a month and go on a digital fast. Which apps, which social media platforms, which whatever it might be. Maybe for some people it's like email or text messages or whatever. For a lot of people, especially younger people, it's TikTok and Instagram and whatever else. So go on a digital fast, and that's when you'll get an accurate picture of the depth of your addiction. If it's just sort of like, like I won't go on, for an hour on Tuesdays or something. I just don't think that's enough. I think it needs to be, okay, I have a sense that I'm addicted to TikTok and Instagram. Well, then delete TikTok and Instagram for a week and be really intentional about how you fill your time. What are the withdrawal symptoms? And that'll give you a sense for the depth of your addiction. And I think once that happens, then it becomes clearer about what maybe needs to be done in your life. And that may not be to delete those apps and delete your profile from those apps forever. Or it might be that, I don't know. But having that experience within the context of community with some mature people around you who can hold you accountable, I think is the first step in that direction. And, I think our addictions run deeper than most people think. You're talking about, you post something, it goes viral, and then there's the dopamine hit. I mean, there's been a ton of research along those lines. Jonathan Haidt and Gene Twenge come to mind, and they've written a couple of articles on the New York Times and the Atlantic about using data about the adverse effects of social media, particularly on teenage girls. And it's tragic and it's jarring when you think about some of the data that's beginning to come out. So I think, the question you're asking, Dan, is so important, that we need to help, especially young people, but all people, we need to help them and create support systems for them to assess in their own lives sort of what is being undone as they just continue down this path of digital addiction, and then help them have tangible, accessible paths out of those addictions.
Yeah, I think all of us are so good at self justification that what you're suggesting, Jay, is like a great way to just, because if we're just like trying to take a step back and evaluate our lives, like I remember just before 2020, before the pandemic, it was my last year in youth ministry, and we were talking about like our mobile devices and stuff, and we were talking about our screen time. And I think at the time, like my average screen time was like 3 hours or something like that, which I felt like was a lot. And then when I mentioned it in youth group, all of the teens were like, only 3 hours? And so it could really, for me, I could be like, oh, all right, it's not that bad. Like they're on their phones for 15 hours a day. But not to like compare yourself against others, but to kind of what is your life like without it, and
Right.
experience that, and then see. So I think that's a good step. And I think for those listening, maybe the first step for you is, how did you feel when Jay suggested that?
Mm.
Because I think even just the suggestion of going on a digital fast or being without your phone or without a specific app, if that triggers something in you, that's the first sign that maybe this isn't in a healthy place.
Right. Yeah.
And make sure you like the Gospel According to on all of those apps before you delete them, just
Yes,
to
yes.
help bump our numbers up.
So that we're there when you come back. Yes.
That's right.
Jay, in the book Analog Christian, you kind of broke the book down into three parts, talking about cultivating contentment, resilience, and wisdom, with the idea that technology and our technological habits, at least, inhibit those things in some way. So where do you see technology getting in the way of our contentment, resilience, and wisdom?
Yeah, the book is really broken down in those three parts, and the way it works is, for me personally, one of the most helpful things I found in terms of thinking clearly about my own digital addictions and what those digital addictions were doing to me. I found so much hope and comfort and a real accessible, practical path forward in Paul's famous words near the end of his letter to the Galatians in Galatians 5, when he's got that section that people know as the fruit of the Spirit section,
Mm-hmm.
Galatians 5, 22, 23, when he says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And the reason I found that so helpful is I studied the passage, I began to realize, oh my gosh, those characteristics or virtues of the Spirit cultivating a fruitful life in me, those characteristics and virtues, they are the antidotes to so much that ails me in the digital age. So then as I thought about sort of, all of the consequences or ramifications of my digital addictions, I realized they landed in those three buckets. They were making me incredibly discontent, really fragile, and really, really foolish, unwise.
Mm.
Specifically, they were, self-centric despair. Excuse me. My inability to look beyond myself and just constantly compare my ordinary mundane life to the glossy highlights of others would lead me to just utter despair. And it was fueled by comparison, which would then lead me to this sort of unjustified contempt toward people. Like, oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh, like why do they get to live that life and I have to just live my ordinary whatever? Even though intellectually I knew those are just glossed up highlights. That's not their
Right.
real life all the time. But there's something in you that just like believes that it is, you know? So despair, comparison, contempt, it was leading me to utter discontentment. And then I was finding myself in the digital age for a variety of reasons, incredibly impatient. I was growing really hostile, just like hostility was sort of my default nature. And then I was growing really, really like forgetful. And I don't mean like I forgot where I left my keys, but forgetting that these avatars on the other side of these digital screens, these are like real human beings made in the image of God, which is why I was sort of sucked into the vortex of outrage culture. It's easy to shout and scream at an avatar on a screen. It's not so much so with a real person in front of you. And then in my exhaustion, I just found myself sort of like recklessly indulging, you know, wasting so much time and energy on all of the offerings of the internet. And, you know, those things I realized, man, those experiences and realities were making me incredibly fragile and really foolish, just wasting my life away. You know, the writer Annie Dillard, she famously once said, "The way we spend our days is the way we spend our life." And I looked at myself and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm wasting my life away. Well, like, what is this? This is so foolish." You know, I mean, 3 hours of screen time or whatever. It's like 3 hours of my life looking at a black box. I mean, this is like so crazy. So, yeah, I realized contentment, fragility, discontentment, fragility, and foolishness they were so rampant in my life. And actually, it was like the COVID pandemic that really sort of heightened my awareness of those things as life began to be mediated almost exclusively via screen. And I just found a lot of hope in Paul's words, you know, that if I could invite the Spirit of God to do the sort of regenerative work in me that the Spirit of God does, I can unshackle myself. I can break free from those realities, from discontentment, fragility, and foolishness. And, you know, I'm a long ways off, but at least I can see the path forward at least. And so that's what I was trying to offer and am trying to offer to folks who maybe have similar experience as me.
Yeah, I love that. And I've, you know, I think you kind of putting the fruit of the Spirit against, let's say, the fruit of technology or our phone usage, was a new way to think of that. But I have just like, if you just look at the list of the fruit of the Spirit, who wouldn't want those things, those characteristics to describe their life? And
Right.
so then to take those things and compare them to what is being produced in me, where am I spending a lot of my time? And I think for many of us, if not all of us, our phones and technology in general takes up a lot of our time. So what is that producing in us? Is it love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness? Is it all those things, or is it something else? And then what do we do about that? What is
Yeah.
kind of what we're driving at, and we have to put that question in front of us. And I really enjoyed Analog Christian, and so I think if you are listening to this and you're asking those questions or open to asking those questions about yourself, definitely pick up a copy, check it out. I think that it's a really good work, and like you said, Jay, it doesn't. You're not all the way there. You're not coming from the mountaintop telling us this is what your life could be like, but you do see
Right.
it, that this is the
Yeah.
direction that we should be headed. So let's move in that direction.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, you ready for play a couple games? We like to
Yes.
play
Let's
games
go.
here on this
Let's do
podcast.
it.
All right, Dan, let's, I think we each have a game for you today. So
Okay.
Dan, why don't we start with yours?
All right, so we always try to bring things back. Like we said, this is the only gospel that talks about Christianity and pop culture.
The only podcast.
Yeah, is that not what I said?
You said the only gospel.
No.
This is it. This podcast
Well,
preaches the true gospel. All other podcasts are heresy. So,
all right, so we're isolating that clip, And you heard it from J. Kim. We're the official.
So one of the things we try to look, bring things back to the Bible. So I'm gonna, and this can be a cooperative game, is for us to, I'm gonna bring up a Bible character, and for us to relate what social media platform we think that this person would thrive on today, or would
Wow.
spend their most time on today. All right.
Okay.
So it's cooperative, so all three of us can give our ideas. So I'm going to start out with Solomon. So we have the wisdom side of it. Is he tweeting out
Tinder.
those little things?
I'm gonna say Tinder.
Okay. All the women.
Is that too like rated R to say on this podcast?
No, that's actually. I was going to head.
I'm not promoting Tinder. I'm just saying
you're
think
answering
he'd be
the
on
question.
Tinder.
Yeah. I think wherever he is, I think he's sliding into DMs. That's for sure. And he's got some game.
Gosh.
He's got some game to spit.
Oh my gosh, this is getting dark, you guys. This is dark.
Well, that happens, but yeah, no, I think Tinder or one of those dating websites. That's where we're probably going to find Solomon.
All right. So next is Paul. St. Paul. I thought of okay, what social media do they get in prison? Spent a lot of time in prison,
Yeah.
Is he on?
So many. I'd feel like Paul would be emailing a ton. That's not a social media platform, but he'd be on Gmail just constantly,
emailing
all the time.
Pastors of churches, being like,
"Yeah,
listen,
Yep.
I got this complaint from one of your parishioners, and
I do, yeah. And Paul definitely has real strong "as per my last email" vibes.
Yes, Slack. He'd probably be on Slack not social media, but he'd be all over that Slack.
And that would actually be helpful for him to keep up with the churches too.
He's got Timothy. He's on there,
Yep.
He's got private chats with Timothy, but then he's got the Galatia channel, Colossae channel.
I think he'd use a lot of emojis. I think Paul would be a big emoji guy, sort of shorthand for things. Yeah.
I like that.
All right. How about David, King David? I thought maybe SoundCloud, rapper.
Or Bandcamp or.
Yeah, I mean, maybe TikTok with some dances and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's dancing before the Lord. His latest song, check it out.
What's his handle? At more undignified.
Yeah,
and he's just doing all the dances.
Shepherd Boy.
Shepherd Boy. Giant Killer. Killer XX.
Giant Slayer.
Giant Slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, one of the music, or is it Musically? Is that one too? Is that a social media thing, or did I just make that up?
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna trademark it real quick. But
all right, last one. Abraham.
Oh man.
MySpace, one of the Friendster, one of the OGs,
I mean, Facebook probably.
Yeah, at this point, yeah,
with the grandparents.
Oh yeah,
just rocking long grandparent posts.
Yeah,
about his kids or whatever.
With a few status updates that are actually just Google searches. Yeah. Where can I find bundle of sticks? Dad, not again.
Location of RAM seller nearby.
That's so good.
He's definitely over there. All right, so now we're on to my game, which is Real or Fake Christian Tech Edition. All right, so I'm going to give you. It's either some innovation that Christians, because we do this, the world comes up with technology and we're we need in on this racket, and so then we put the Christian spin on it.
Okay? Yes,
Bibleopoly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, like Bibleopoly, for instance. So I'm going to give you some version of Bible or Christian tech rather, and you have to tell me if this is real or fake. And both of you can play because I didn't share these with Dan. So the first one is Dance Praise. Dance Praise is a rhythm game series in the vein of the popular Just Dance series of games. But now you can get your groove on while making a joyful noise to the Lord. Buy Dance
Oh.
Praise today for your chance to get even more undignified.
Is that like the meme where it's like, carrying the TV,
Yeah, like the Christian
widescreen
dance
TV,
moves. Yeah.
touchdown?
So
Oh my
is
gosh.
Dance Praise real or fake?
I'm gonna say real.
I'm gonna say fake.
All right. The real point goes to Dan. It is real.
Oh wow.
But I'll give you like
Okay.
half a point, Jay, because the copy, the read, the ad read there, that was mine. I made that up
Okay.
for Dance Praise.
Okay.
So Dance Praise,
That's
if you
what I
want
was
to,
basing it on.
so
That
Dance
felt
Praise,
like
if
a
you want to
fake,
use that, go for it. But
Okay.
Not a sponsor.
All right.
not a sponsor yet. All right. Also not a sponsor yet is Holy Smokes. And Holy Smokes offers a line of vape pens inscribed with Bible verses. Most popular ones include excerpts of Psalm 23 and 1 Corinthians 13. But if your favorite verse isn't in stock, you can have them custom made.
That's got to be fake.
What are the
That's gotta be
flavors
fake.
like? Frankincense,
Frankincense, myrrh, yeah, thyme, ram's horn.
water into wine.
Can you get one
vape.
in the shape of a ram's horn?
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that'd be
like
awesome.
the-
Just a shofar, just a
Yeah.
shofar
Shofar vape.
vape pen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So you're going with fake, Jay?
I gotta say, yeah, that's got to be fake.
Yeah,
It's got to be fake.
For the sake of hoping it's fake, I'm gonna say fake as well.
It is fake, but again,
Okay.
if you like that idea, tgatpod@gmail.com.
No, just email Dave. He's gonna have to do that himself.
Sole proprietor is me. All right. Super 3D Noah's Ark for Super Nintendo. This was a video game. Players would wander the Ark using a slingshot to shoot sleep-inducing food at attacking animals.
That is messed up, man. And I don't think that's biblical. I don't think that's how the story went. I'm going to say that's real. That seems real in a weird way.
I'm gonna say fake.
It is real. That was a real video game. There were like secret passages on the Ark as well, different types of food and weapons, and you would progress. Like the goat was the first. They were like boss-like animals. So like the goat was the bad guy, and then you worked your way up to like elephant and gorilla.
But you were just putting them to sleep, right?
You were just putting them to sleep. Yeah, that was it. All right, last one is christianlikeme.net. It is social network site like Facebook. And offers Christians the opportunity to share their thoughts and opinions on different topics so that they can find Christians like them.
That's such a bad idea.
Isn't that actually just Facebook?
Like, I want people that believe exactly like I do. Same theology, same skin color.
That's just Facebook. I'm gonna say that's real. Sadly, feels like that's real.
I'm gonna say fake.
It is real. That is
man.
real. Yes, I went with the only fake one was Holy Smokes. Which, come on,
I thought you were gonna bring
someone
up,
get on that.
Have you guys seen the like Joel Osteen box that just like will say encouraging things out of it?
No, but that sounds awesome.
It's
that sounds amazing.
It's like one of those, you push the button and then it just like, I'm pretty sure it's real.
Like you can live your best life today kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's cool.
Kind of like a like the That's Easy Staples button, but it's a Joel Osteen.
But it's Joel Osteen giving you a nice quote.
No,
that's
I didn't
amazing.
come up with that one. All right, Jay. Well, thank you for joining us today. If people want to certainly they can pick up either of your books, Analog Church, Analog Christian, through Ivy Press or wherever books are sold. But if they want to follow along with other stuff that you're doing, is there a place for them to best places for them to do
What's
that?
your address so they can just come face to face?
That's right.
Since
I'm
they threw their
analog.
phones away at this
That's
point.
right. I'm analog. So just come over. My address is yeah, I've got a little website, jkimthinks.com, and most of my work gets posted there. So if anything there is helpful to you, then I'm grateful. And you can go there, and my email address is up there too. So if you want to reach me about anything, would love to hear from you.
All right, jkimthinks.com. I'll put that in the show notes. Dan, take us out.
Thank you for listening to the Gospel According to podcast. And regardless of what you heard before, remember to follow us on all social media platforms before you delete them. All ones that have existed or ever existed: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or ChristianLikeMe.net.
Or holy smokes, order your
Yes.
vape pen now.
Yeah. Use promo code TGAT for 25% off your first shofar.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the gospel according to with your family, friends, with your tech addicted nephew. Make sure that you send him the link to this episode that he could listen to it.
You can also send us your mailbag questions on social media or by emailing tgatpod@gmail.com. And right about now is where I would head into the portion of our show that is corrections and reproofs. But Dan, so far we are still batting 1,000 in the new year. Nobody has corrected us or reproved us about anything. But if you think we got something wrong, we missed something, feel free to email us, and we will either face the music live here on a podcast, or we'll just double down and tell you why you're wrong and we're right.
If you work for Meta and you want this episode cleared from the internet, you can message us.
Yes. Don't forget to do your part of fulfilling the Great Commission by helping us spread the gospel according to. And one great way to do that is leaving us a 5-star rating and review wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. That would be much appreciated. Thank you for listening. This was the gospel according to technology.